Hello, hello. Just getting all the text set up here. How are all you beautiful human beings on this Monday morning, coming to you live again? And today's conversation in Inner Compass is going to be one of the lessons from the Course in Miracles. I choose the second place to gain first. And that's lesson 328 in the Course in Miracles. And I'll actually read a little bit of it, and then we're going to get into a quick little discussion. So what my whole point of these daily lives is just to bring some enlightenment, something for you to think about during your day, as we go about our day, just to connect and bring ourselves into greater alignment. And so the lesson here says, what seems to be second place is first. For all things that we perceive are upside down until we listen to the voice of God. It seems that we will gain autonomy, but by our striving to be separate, and that our independence from the rest of God's creation is the way in which salvation is obtained. Yet all we find is sickness, suffering, and loss and death. This is not what our Father wills for us, nor is there any second to his will. To join with his is but to find your own. And since our will is his, it is to him that we must go to recognize our will. So again, a beautiful passage for us to ponder when we think about there is no will but yours, which means there is no will but God's will. We are not individual actors acting from separate from God. Although our ego, which is so very nuanced and so subtle, wants us to believe that. So we're on this spiritual evolution. We're on this human evolution. So our ego has played a vital role in our growth as human beings from when we first came in and being able to survive. And now we're at this precipice as a human collective where we're asked to be evolved even further. We're being called to evolve into heart-based consciousness, to Christ consciousness, to unity consciousness, that we understand the oneness of the universe and why we are here. And we are here to do God's will. There's no second source of energy acting separate from God. And as I say a lot before, and I'll probably repeat myself often, but I also repeat myself because it's the lessons I'm also learning as I share them out back with you, is our ego doesn't perceive our own best interest. So if our ego, just as I read in this lesson, perceives that we are the doers, and it perceives that it knows what to do, how could it possibly know? It's our own energy working against us. It's not in alignment with God's will and what he wants done for us. God is asking for us to realize that there is an ease and a peacefulness and a surrender that we are supposed to have here in this lifetime, that we are here to interact and do his will, and that we don't have to exert ourselves beyond coming into alignment with that. And so it's just so important for us to realize what's going on here, that we can come into alignment with ease and peace and prosperity when we understand that we are here to do, to be in alignment with God's will. You know, I always think of when we come into alignment with that, what do we really tap into? We tap into the truth of who we are. We tap into the infinite truth of the universe. And the ego, in all its great wisdom, wants to also keep us out of that as well. It wants to keep us disconnected from that universal infinite truth because our mind is finite. Our mind can't even perceive all the goodness that's going on. If we also think about that, our mind, our in this present moment, we know nothing else other than right now. And our ego is the only thing that is creating perceptions or separateness from our current self. So there is no future and there is no past. There's only the now. And it's our judgment as human beings of ourself. Even if I'm here in this moment right now thinking, okay, like tomorrow's going to be a better day, or this moment down here is going to be a better moment. All we are doing is creating separateness. We're only creating more illusion of our consciousness. We're only creating pain and suffering. We are the ones creating that. God isn't creating that for us. God is trying to get us to remember and align that He has a divine plan for us, and it's our job to just surrender and trust and fall into that. And so, you know, when I think about like, what are the lessons that are here for us today? You know, what are the lessons that I think about? Like when I get up, it's like, I am here to do God's will. I'm not here to be an individual actor. I just need to show up. I need to follow the nudgings of Source, follow what He's calling me to do, and to do that. To be a non-doer and to follow God's will doesn't mean you're a non-actor and doing nothing. It means that the work that you're doing is done with ease and flow and is done through God's will, and you're just following His nudgings. It's not Aaron, the individual actor over here, doing something in order to create something. And we see that all the time. Like, we're going to continue to see this evolve. Like, I know this conversation might be it's on the leading edge of where we're going as a human collective. The ego, the separate self, is being asked to, it doesn't really need to exist anymore. We have moved so far along in the human evolution that now we can trust and surrender and release and just be. We're not in a constant fight or flight for survival mode as a human collective anymore. And so we're being asked to rise in our consciousness to a greater place. And so I just love today's lesson that I was reflecting on of, I choose the second place to gain the first. And what would happen if we really chose to put ourselves, the ego, in second place to allow God's will, which is our will, to become the first place? What would be accomplished? What would be achieved? What would we actualize on this planet? And we don't even know it because we've acted so separate from that power, thinking that we're individual doers, that all we get in that is God's lessons, which is our karma. So we, instead of trusting and surrendering and allow really God, Source, divine, that energy to be the CEO of our lives, and for us to be in alignment with that, what would actually occur on this planet if we were all creating from that space? Because anytime that we act as an individual doer, we are acting from a space of lack because we perceive that God does not have our best interests at heart. So if I perceive that God is not working through me, and that's a perception of lack. So if I then want to go out and act in the world, I'm already at a deficit of, I'm acting from a space of lack. There's something not good enough, and I'm actually going to go out and create that. And so that's when we think about everything that's going on. It's like, why do I keep creating more lack? Or why am I maybe long term not getting the successful, sustainable results that I want to get? It's because what was that original point from which you chose to act? And if you're acting from your separate self, if you're acting from ego, the ego is lack. The ego is fear. The ego is control. The ego is attachment. So all you're going to get back is that eventually. What that looks like, you don't know, but the reality is it's always circling back, because God wants us to learn this lesson of, like, I am here and my will is greater than your will, and to surrender and trust and allow that power to act through you. And so when you think about how do you set, let's say, an intention for the day, the intention should be, how do I allow God's will to be done? And throughout the day, check in and go, is this my will or is this God's will? And right there, the awareness alone is the magic dissolver to bring you back into alignment. So as you set intentions for your day, for your week, for your month, your first intention should be, is this God's will? And if it is God's will, is it of the highest order? And what is he asking me to do? And if it's your individual ego and your individual doership, you might want to revisit that and ask yourself, why do I feel the need to do this? So, second place is the new first place. Allow God to be the driver of your life, and allow your ego to take that second seat, to allow God's will, which is also your will, to be done on this earth. And as we do that more and more as individuals, and we do this work, we are going to see the world evolve and change. And the only way the world evolves and changes is through each one of us in our individual alignment back to God, back to source, back to the universe, and back into the divine. That's all we're here for. Everything else is, I guess, icing on the cake, as they would say. So as you set your intentions for the week, my call to action that I'd ask of you is this God's will being done? Or is this my ego wanting to seek something out? And know that anytime that we are not following God's will, we get to live the lessons that God has for us to bring us in alignment with that very principle, that we are one with him and we are here to co-create with him and to have God's will be done on this earth. So, happy Monday. I'm glad everybody got to join us today for the Inner Compass conversation. And I would love for you to like, share, subscribe, and more importantly, just join in on a conscious conversation of how we can grow and evolve humanity to the next level. So thank you again. Have a great Monday.